Well, hello, everybody. Thank you for joining in once again to the Golf Rules Questions podcast. Another episode, another day, and another whole host of different golf rules related situations and imbroglios to cover off with the great man, Blakey. My name's Roscoe, your co-host. Blakey sitting virtually alongside me here. How are you, Blakey? You well?
Yeah, going really well. It's summertime coming up. I can hear that because everyone's out mowing their lawn. So for the Southern Hemisphere, it's hopefully golf time, a lot more golf time soon.
I'm not wanting to talk about lockdown events again, Blakey, but you know why everyone's out mowing their lawn? It's because the gym's mowing and all of the people that do that sort of thing are allowed to go back to work.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah.
The traffic's chock-a-block with guys in cars out there mowing, which is good to see. Great to see. Not too far away from back playing golf. Mate, it's been a busy week for you. You've been busy with all of your stuff. The Instagram is going off. I think you just mentioned there that Hudson Swafford post from the PGA Tour hitting his divot into the ball, which I think goes way back. That's creating a bit of interest, and there's a whole load of different things. What has popped up into your sphere of vision in the last few days, mate?
Yeah, so well done to Hudson Swafford for winning that PGA Tour event. I think that was his second win. And then just as night follows day, the PGA Tour reposted his famous divot into the ball incident. So he's in the middle of the fairway, hits his divot into a practice swing divot into the ball, causes the ball to move. That's a one-stroke penalty. It's been the same rule forever. One-stroke penalty and the ball must be moved. We talked about it in episode 9. You have to be careful around your ball. There are some exceptions when you won't get penalised, but you really have to be careful around your ball. Have you ever hit your divot into your ball, Roscoe?
No, mate. In my aging years, shallow angle of attack, I don't leave a big divot anymore. I don't take a big divot. It's and I try not to actually on the Cooch fairways in Melbourne here. It's probably for me. I think it's not ideal to take a massive divot out of the Cooch because the Cooch gets a bit gravy. Over on the beautiful fescue fairways in the Linksland in Scotland, there's a hint for the background bingo. It's very, very, very pleasant to take a nice big fillet of divot out of the fescue. But no, I've never hit one into the ball. No.
I can't say that I've ever been behind or in a situation that I'm hitting my divot at my ball. I don't know why you would, but it's a lesson learned that the best can do it. As us amateurs, try learn from the best. Don't do it.
Now, mate, how do you want to proceed here? Do you want to get straight into some of the little video chats and rules situations that you've got lined up here? We'll just go with that.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's get into it. I was watching the duty-free Irish Open. Is that it?
Dubai duty-free Irish
Dubai
Open at Galgorm Castle course in Ballymena. When Ballymena is between Belfast and where Royal Portrush, Port Stewart, up to that north-west coast in Northern Ireland. It's not in Ireland, but in Northern Ireland. I think Galgorm Castle is one of those resort type places. It wasn't a links course, but they can house all of the bubble of the European Tour there. So that's one of the reasons why those guys get to keep playing golf, which we're very grateful for. They moved to the Renaissance Club this week in East Lothian in Scotland. Fantastic venue. Once again, they can house everyone there. But Galgorm Castle was great. Great test. Some guys that played pretty well in the US Open went over there. Janewattananond was there. Lucas Herbert was there. Aaron Rye. So there's a couple of those guys feature in some of these videos. So do we move on just with the one with Jazz Jane in there?
Yeah, let's go for it.
Have you ever met Jazz Janewattananond before?
I haven't met him, but I've certainly been refereeing when he's been out playing. So.
What was he like? What was he like when you were watching, refereeing, and playing him playing in what tournament was that?
Possibly the Australian Open, PGA Championship, Fiji International, possibly. Those are the ones I'm thinking of.
Seems like a great young fella. Interesting, turned pro at 14 years of age, and then spent some time in the I don't actually know what's the right way to refer it, but became a monk. And that was one of the interesting reasons that he wears an orange shirt on the final day. It represents the colors that he wore when he was doing his monksmanship training. I don't know. I don't want to be disrespectful, and I don't mean that at all, but you know what I mean? Like, it's an interesting little tidbit of information there. Okay, let's play. More theme tune music.
Yeah, the intro and outro.
Up to Janewattananond. See if he can make the up and down this time.
He was unlucky not to make up and down the last time. Such a brilliant bunker shot. He played this one well also, but it just ran away from him past the hole. It's very tranquil out here now. Beautiful autumn evening. Ewan Ferguson just coming out of his putt a little bit too early. Janewattananond needs to pull this one right up and watch it fall into the cup. Deserves an up and down after 2 good bunker shots.
Back-to-back bogeys, I'm afraid, for the tie. It just looked like he tried to jam it in there. A little bit quick in the transition, just pushed it out the right. Well, it's okay. He thinks the ball's moved, but it's not moved by any measure of him causing it to do so. So it's okay. He just should be able to go ahead and tap that one in.
So there you see, Janewattananond, just to describe that for those listening to the podcast only, but please go across to the GolfRules Questions YouTube, because all of these videos are there in the wonderful resource that Blakey curates, spends an amazing amount of time providing that content for you to learn about the rules. So jump over there. But just to describe that once again, Jane has a putt from just off the green on the fringe. Takes
about 10 foot.
Yeah, it wasn't a big putt. And as you could hear, Iona, the wonderful tone of Iona Stephen there, commentating very nicely that putt. He misses and then goes up to putt the ball in, and it's potentially moved. So, Blakey, you take over. Tell us exactly what happened there.
Yeah, so live, it looked like the ball was sort of just precariously perched in a spot on the putting green. And you just need to work out whether, you could definitely see that the ball moved. And you just need to work out what caused it to move or who caused it to move. And the player wasn't sure whether they caused it to move. So they got a referee in. But, the referee's just going off what the player tells them. Well, did you ground your club? It looked like he sort of grounded his club to the back of the ball, to the right side, or the left side, whatever way you're looking at, and then moved in, and he may have grounded his club, may not have. But, even if you had like an 80 or 90%, absolutely they caused the ball to move, that's not enough. You have to have at least 95% conclusivity that the ball was moved by the player. And because it's on the putting green, it's a really easy one. You're just finding out the facts and you're just saying, okay, you caused it to move, you must replace it, no penalty because it was accidental. You didn't cause it to move. We don't know what else caused it to move. So then by default, it's natural forces, wind, water, or gravity, and you just play it from its new position. Now, it's slightly different if you've already marked, lifted, and replaced it, or already lifted and replaced it, slightly different. Then the only way to get it off that spot is basically to make a stroke or take relief. But if he hadn't lifted and marked it from that spot, so you just work out whether or what caused it to move, or work out whether it moved, it did, work out what caused it to move, and then if it was the player, you replace. If it was natural forces, you play it from its new spot. And what they came up with was from the players and and the player and all the other players. What did you see? What are the facts? And the facts were that, I don't think I caused it to move. Well, we need at least 95% that virtual certainty that you cause it to move. So just play it as it lies.
Now, did you reach out to the referee that actually was there officiating on that spot right there?
I did. He's a friend of mine, a very good friend, and a good referee as well. So he told me, you know, it's an interesting situation because I saw the video. As a referee, you don't have footage. You can ask the trucks for footage, but that can take a bit of time. So it's easier just to work out the facts from the players themselves and anyone else that may be watching. You know, there might be spectators, the marker scorer, camera crew. You can ask everyone to find out what you need to find out, the facts, and then make the determination off that. And so, you know, the referee went from what the players told him, and made a determination that he didn't think that the player had caused the ball to move. So the player is to play on.
For those of you, very good analysis and great value that you bring by being able to reach out to some of those people that you know from around the world. What a great insight that to have access to those. And so your friend who's a referee over there in, I'm assuming he's going to be at Renaissance this weekend. Hope there's some more situations that he can get to do some work on. But yeah, really, really good that you're able to reach out to those guys and get firsthand information. Just to your point just there, for those that are in non-lockdown states, you're probably having normal sleep patterns and rhythms, and you know your body clock's in sync. For those of us that aren't, definitely not in sync, because I've been staying up late watching a lot of golf, and the Dubai Duty Free Irish Open I did watch quite a bit of. And the example that you mentioned there, and I was thinking about this in relation to the podcast, the rough was quite long, and there was one chap, I can't remember who it was, maybe the South African fella, and the last day he started to have a bit of the horrors and hitting it left and right, and the ball went into the deep kaka. And it appeared to me that, okay, it probably wasn't going to be lost, but I reckon that he bought himself an extra bit of time on the tee to allow the people who were up near the green to go and search for the ball. You know, he sort of didn't know that it was found, but I reckon he was sort of questioning around on the tee and waiting to hit another one, because that means that he didn't have to walk up and, his 3 minutes didn't start. Is that right?
Yeah, the 3 minutes doesn't start. This 3 minute search time doesn't start until the player or their caddy start searching for the ball. Now, there is an interpretation in the rules that you're not permitted to delay your start search time. So if you see if you, Roscoe, you and I and, our friends Henry and Daniel are playing, and I hit my ball into the rough and into sort of this area that I could lose it, I couldn't sort of lag behind and stand on the fairway watching you, Daniel and Henry go in there and have a look and say, oh, my 3 minute start time hasn't started yet. There's actually an interpretation there, but what you're getting at is that player was trying to establish whether he needed to hit a provisional or just hit another one. So yes, he may have been doing a little bit of that, but unless it really looks like a delay of play, an unreasonable delay of play, and waiting for that kind of thing to happen, then they're going to sort of be okay.
It looked like they were obviously waiting for the communication to come from the TV people, basically, because Radar Riley, who we'll hear from in a second, was up by the green. And then the commentator started to talk to Radar, going, Radar, it's not there, it's over near the grass, and or thereabouts. I think Paul McGinley was maybe commentating at the time. So the guys in the commentary team were directing Radar to where the ball was, and then it looked like the guys on the tee were waiting for the commentary team to tell the camera guys who were on the tee, oh, they found it. And that was the delay. They were like able to wait there for the communication to come from the guys up by the green. It was a par 3. And I just thought, is that the right way to handle it? Is that the right way to do, to be able to sit there and wait for, all this other communication? Or should you just pick your T-peg up or decide I'm hitting a provisional and just move on? But it was just interesting to watch. And then the other thing that happened is Radar stood on the ball.
You should just play a provisional in that case.
Crack on.
Yeah, that's an interesting situation. The referee, the committee can certainly look at that kind of thing going forward. Is that the kind of procedure we want happening? Should we have TV involved as much as they are? In all likelihood, 95%, I'd say, TV is good to be there. It gives us a better understanding of the facts.
Yeah.
But in some cases, they can slow play down.
I think essentially they were the only people there, so it was pretty easy to have that communication because there's no one else at the tournament. I can't say categorically that that's what happened. It just appeared to me watching TV. But yeah, and we've spoken about this previously. But Radar stood on the ball. It was interesting. They walked up, and then they just had to replace the ball because Radar had obviously buried it. So they just put it there, put the grass over it, and they discussed that. It was really quite good in the context of the GolfRules Questions podcast. You might find that video.
I should put that one. Find that one.
A double banger video. That's always good.
There was.
You get excited when there's videos with two rules imbroglios in there.
Mate, I just get excited whenever there's any rules going on. I'm watching this stuff just to.
It's like a double yoker. It's like a double yoker of a rules scenario. Oh wow, double two yokes.
Yeah, well, that happened last week.
Yeah.
Last week we had Catherine Kirk on the back of the 18th at the ANA, and Brooke Henderson on the back of the 18th at the ANA. So both had TIO situations. So yeah, no, it went for about 12 minutes or something. I had to cut the video down but it was exciting for me.
Any junior editors out there that may put their hand up for some editing work for all this rules imbroglio situations, scenarios that we are faced with, feel free to reach out. There may be some unpaid intern type work for you.
If you have an idea of the rules, if you have an idea of golf, if you have an idea of the rules, and you have an idea of Adobe Photoshop, then reach out to us.
There you go. Now let's move on to the next rules situation, and we were talking about Radar. I think Radar is commentating on this, so maybe not. I'm not sure, but
Radar is commentating on this one.
It's for a history lesson there. Go and Google for those of you that are newer to the game, newer to the rules, newer to you won't know who Radar is. Go and Google Radar Riley. Wayne Riley, what a legend.
Yeah, broken 8-iron, I think it was. You only have to play about half of this one as well, I think, Roscoe.
Sorry, that was Jane again.
So basically in this one, Aaron Rye hits a bloody good shot. And you're allowed to say bloody on this podcast, aren't you? And it hits the side of the hole and causing some damage to it. It was very close to hitting the side of the hole, causing some damage to it. And we just wanted to talk to people about what happens if there is damage to the hole.
Coming here. Sorry for the delay.
You're right.
148. Dead aim from here. Good chance to pump it in there really close. It's a gift. Slight draft into. Same club, 9-iron.
Oh, look at that, about 1.5 foot from slam dunking it in the hole. Excellent stuff from Aaron Wright. Yeah, I'll take a little closer look at this. It's actually on the right edge of the cup, I think, the looks of things. Very close indeed.
Yes, they're going to have to repair that, aren't they, right next to the hole?
So there you go. Aaron Rye has, as you say, pumped in his 8-iron there, and it's landed right dead smack bang on the side of the hole. And, you know, one of those situations that you see all over the Instagrams related to golf and holes in ones where it's taken a massive chunk out of the side of the lip of the cup and bounced off to the side of the green. I don't think it stayed on the green. So it was unfortunate for the man who was ultimately the runner-up in that tournament, led from pretty much start to finish until about the 12th hole and just didn't get it done. And the American Caitlin, who won previously at Valderrama, was very, very good, had 600 on the last day and looked like a winner from the start of that day and ended up winning. But Aaron Rai, I'm not sure what round that was, Blakey, but yeah, talk to us about that situation.
That was round 3.
Okay.
So the players hit it, into the side of the hole, damaged the side of the hole. Now, since January 1, 2019, the amount of damage that you're permitted to repair on the putting green has increased, I see. So the expanse of damage. You weren't previously allowed to repair spike marks, shoe marks, scuff marks. You could only repair old hole plugs or pitch marks, basically. But since 1 January 2019, you can now repair shoe marks. You can basically repair anything that was caused, any damage that was caused by a person or an outside influence that wasn't in the maintenance of the green. Okay. So, or, you know, and you can't repair disease or anything like that. So when it comes to a hole, you are permitted to repair the hole if the damage has been caused by an outside influence, obviously, or a player. Obviously, a ball hitting the side of the hole is under that definition. So you are able, as a player, to try and repair the hole. If you're a little bit lazy or a little bit careless with the flagstick and you graze the side of the hole, when you take the flagstick out and sort of cause it to be damaged a little bit, you can try and repair that as well. If you see that someone else has done that, you're able to try and repair it. But you wouldn't be able to or permitted to repair natural wear and tear of the hole. So if 200 players have been playing on that course all day and, you know, you come to the sort of 17th or 18th hole and you're the last group and you just see that the sides are gently caved in because of natural wear and tear, you wouldn't be permitted to repair that. Now, you probably wouldn't anyway, because that the caved in has probably made the hole a little bit bigger. But, you know, there are sort of situations where the grass could be sticking up and it could actually be a bit more of a hindrance than a help. But you are permitted to repair the hole. If you can't repair the hole so that it sort of goes back to what it was, then you can call the committee in, and that's what they did in this situation. And European Tour referee Kevin Feeney was on hand, and he had a nice little device. We see that in the video. They had a nice little device there that he stuck on over the top of the hole, and they could basically make sure that the hole was built around that little external cup, I guess size of an external cup, and patted the ground around it to make sure that the hole was the same dimensions.
Yeah, so he'd like fix the pitch mark type thing, and then put what's essentially the greenkeeper's hole cutting sleeve that they put in there to push the. I think it was they put it in there to push the cup in. There's a couple of implements that they use when cutting holes, and you can see a load of videos there. They cut the hole, and then there's this final implement that they hammer in. And I think that was the thing that he did, and just sort of smoothed all that where they fixed the pitch repair.
It looks like one of those egg, when you poach an egg and you do it the McDonald's way. It looked like one of those egg things that you crack your egg into, and easier to poach your egg.
Yeah. Very good.
So yeah, that was easy. Go and watch on YouTube if you want to check that out.
So we've all had situations like that have occurred, and it's important to remember that now we can now do, and under the rules of golf, where I remember numerous times, certainly down at Mornington there, spike marks on the lips of cups and then damage, and and it happens depending on where you play, how often holes get damaged by players, but it is something that you do see, unfortunately, holes being damaged by frustrated golfers, getting balls out with putters and all these things that are massive no-nos. I was taught very, very young in my golf career not to go anywhere near the edge or lip of the cup. Do not damage the lip of the cup. My dad instilled that in me. And I do remember one time at Cessnock Golf Club, it was back in the Jack Newton Junior, Sub-Junior Classic days. And obviously Jack Newton would be up there for the duration of that tournament because it was, obviously hosting it. And it was back in the days when his kids were quite young, because I'm quite old and they're not as old as me. Clint Newton. Now, if you follow rugby league, you will know who Clint Newton is. Former Melbourne Storm, former Newcastle Knights, enforcer, front rower, massive unit. Well, I was telling Clint off on the putting green because Clint was always had his hands in the hole and standing on the edge of the hole, and I was like, Clint, get off the hole. Do not. Because I was junior captain. Rocket, you're not Rocket, you're Blakey. Rocket's the other podcast, My Love of Golf podcast. ROSSCO and Rocket episode dropped last night. It's fire. Go and check that out. But I'd be telling Clint Newton to get off the hole, and he'd just look at me and shake his head going, I don't care. And that's pretty much the response I'd probably get from Clint Newton right now, who's a legend. Anyway, don't damage the edge of the holes, people.
Yeah, I wish we had more people telling. I mean, with the ability to leave the flagstick in now, we are finding more damage around the hole. And the R&A actually came out and with the USGA and came out and changed what a flagstick can be, and that it can actually have one of those attachments that you usually see on the practice green.
Yep. One
of those attachments to the bottom of the flag where you pull the flag out and the ball comes out with it, because it's got one of those, how would you describe that? Like a saucer type thing at the bottom of the hole?
I'm going to leave the descriptions to you because it's just,
okay.
It's always
saucer. You see them on practice greens, those kind of that kind of equipment, and you can actually just pull the flagstick out and the ball pops out. This is, everyone's still in COVID times, but this is outside of COVID when normal golf happens. Yeah.
At Peninsula, it was happening quite a bit, that obviously with the pristine greens, with the pure distinction grass down there, they were starting to get a bit of damage, exactly what you're describing. And the club made a rule that once you hold the ball with the flag stick in, you must remove the ball with the flag stick. So you couldn't put your hands into the cup, which I personally felt was quite disappointing, that they had to tell people not to get in there with your two fingers and pull the ball out. But obviously everyone doesn't have the dexterity, depending on age and whatever else, to do that. So you had to pull the pin out with the ball. Now I found that as easy a way to damage the cup as well, because people couldn't pull the pin and the ball out with the level of coordination required to do it gently. So there's no perfect scenario. Maybe those implements that you're talking about, and the reason why I let you describe it, Blakey, because it just leads me into where we're going. It just creates more opportunities for IVORs.
Yeah.
If you mispronounce or misdescribe something, I'm probably going to call you on an IVOR, and I'm going to backtrack a couple of minutes ago to a potential IVOR situation. Now you can adjudicate this because you're the adjudicator of this sort of stuff. Expanse of damage.
The expanse. Expanse is like big, isn't it? Like a large. So it's expansive damage, the large extent of the damage.
It's only because we're trying to get things absolutely right here, and that's what the purpose of the podcast is. I probably would have gone with extent, but anyway.
Yeah. Well, see, I'm not that quick when it comes to my vocabulary. It's
not that I'm a teacher, and I'm certainly not perfect. I'm still always going to be called by the original IVOR, the founder of the IVORs, IVOR, on imbroglio, not imbroglio, but I'm going to stick with the hard G, imbroglio. So you can stick with expanse. That's all right. No IVORs to report of late.
Well, actually, I just wanted to touch on the one that I did last week, which was disreputable. And I got told by Marcella, who was on your My Love of Golf podcast a few weeks ago.
Girlfriend's Guide to Golf. Shout out to Marcella.
Girlfriend's Guide to Golf. That it's disreputable.
Yes, correct.
Yeah, but I think I'm going to keep going with disreputable.
Well, it's interesting now that we'd sort of digress, but not really. And I'm going to loop it back to the commentary of the Dubai Duty Free Irish Open. Wonderful talent there. If you like listening to the Scottish accents and some of the English guys, some great people. And they brought some new people in. And I mentioned Iona Stephen, who I follow on Instagram, and great young golfer, great young media talent, and very knowledgeable about the game. Just, easy to listen to. They had David Coulthard. No, not David Coulthard. What's his name? Coulthard. David Coulthard. Andrew Coulthard. David Coulthard's Formula One driver. Sorry.
Is that his brother?
But a whole host of Scottish people there. But the big conjecture that they had, and they kept going on about it, and it actually annoyed me a little bit, was the pronunciation of Janewattananond. Talking about it, and I'm going Ivor. And they just kept, and I didn't understand it. It's Wattananond, or find your own way to pronounce it. Sit down and have a team meeting and say, this is how we're going with Wattananond this week, guys. Let's just talk about it. Let's not talk about how to pronounce it, what it is. Just Wattananond.
You know how I'd go with it. Just Jazz.
Yeah, well, I think the scoreboards or the roving marker boards just had that.
Jazzy J.
Jazzy J. Funnily enough is Jazz seems all very, very cool with that. And someone asked I think they got the roving question, roving interview guy, and they said, what's your favourite music? It's not, and like he just looked and rolled his eyes, and no, it's not jazz. I don't like jazz.
That's one of my jokes.
Oh, really?
So we had another one at the Dubai Duty Free Irish Open, and that was Padraig Harrington was looking for some firewood. Now the video will be up very soon on YouTube, so you haven't got a copy there. But he hit his ball a little bit wayward. Did Padraig? Is that how I say Padraig?
Well, you can as an Aussie, Padraig Harrington.
Padraig.
Yeah, the I'm probably not doing it properly, but in Ireland,
it's Gaelic, right?
Well, obviously everything comes from Gaelic and Celtic language over there, but Padraig. I wouldn't say Padraig. They don't say Padraig. They'd be Padraig.
So Padraig.
The G is really soft.
Padraig was a little bit wayward and had a very big branch that had unattached itself from a tree. Unattached itself from a tree, broken off.
Really? Yeah, maybe broken off. Yeah, okay.
That's how we go with in Australia. And Padraig and his caddy were able to move that loose impediment, even though it probably weighed about, 25 kilograms. We're able to move that broken off part of the branch because it was a loose impediment. Just be careful. They were being careful not to cause their ball to move when doing so. We actually saw, do have a video up on YouTube from Justin Thomas last year or 2 years ago doing the same thing. He actually removed a branch that was still in the tree, but it had broken off. It had unattached itself from the tree, or the tree had unattached it from itself. And so, you're allowed to remove loose impediments. Probably the most famous one about this is the Tiger Woods one, which I've also got on YouTube, when, it was a big rock, had about 15 people there helping him out, moving the rock. And, 20 years later, almost in the same course, I think, Brooks Koepka last year, 20 years later, also had some help having a rock move, which I would have thought that Brooks could just move it himself, but he got some help from the spectators to move. Anything that's unattached, it's not solidly embedded, it's not attached to the ball, it's natural, is a loose impediment. And if you are so lucky that you have 20, 30, 40 people following you that are able to get in there and move these loose impediments for you, so be it.
Now, I just want to clarify one thing. And now, in that this attached, recently unassociated, separated, broken off branch situation, let's go back if it's not broken off. So it's a big branch and it's hanging on by, its final, stretches of timber that join it, but it's lying on the ground, but able to be articulated and moved. You can't move it. If it's in your way, you cannot pick it up and move it. Even though it's possibly movable, you can't move it.
If it's still attached, even by the minuscule strand of timber fibre, if it's still attached, then you are not permitted to move it to improve your lie. We talked about improvement last week with Patrick Reed and how the USGA ruled on his situation. There has to be an improvement. If your ball's over here in the fairway and you just see a attached branch that sort of looks a little bit ugly or something, and you just want to do some gardening while someone else is playing a shot, go ahead, you can move that. But if it's going to improve your lie, your conditions, then you're not going to be permitted to do that.
And sorry, just before we move on from that, the probably the much more relevant examples are, when you're around the ball and you've got the sticks and twigs and leaves and all that sort of thing, and you see it's sort of like a Meccano set sort of operation, people moving the twigs and everything. You can hold one so one part doesn't move and move another part and as part of the operation, can't you? You can't obviously hold your ball and move something, but if you need to hold something so it doesn't move something that's near the ball, so you can move that, and then like when they're all woven into each other, you can do all of that, can't you?
Yes, you can hold loose impediments in certain spots so that they don't cause your ball to move. Yes. You can move loose impediments. You can hold loose impediments. I mean, loose impediments aren't part of the lie of the ball. Just be careful not to cause your ball to move anywhere but on the putting green and teeing area. So if you're on the putting green or teeing area, there's not going to be a penalty if you cause your ball to move when moving a loose impediment. But penalty areas, bunkers, rough, fairway, you're going to get a penalty if you cause your ball to move while moving a loose impediment.
Maybe by Ep 30 we can get on from educating everyone on moving. We can't move anything around the ball. We keep coming back to it. But
it's one of the principles. Play the course as you find it. Play the ball as it lies.
Very good. Now, we do have a listener question to go on with, and let's quickly get to that, if that's okay. Are we ready for the listener question now, Blakey?
Yeah, let's rip through this one because it was a good question from about last week's episode 9's podcast.
And thank you to Ian McMillan for the question, second time caller. And we do really appreciate any of the questions, and we will get to them all. But thank you, Ian, for this one.
Hi, Blakey and Roscoe. Ian McMillan here again. Just listened to episode 9, and really interesting and powerful podcast. At around 12 minutes, you were talking about Bryson DeChambeau really didn't need to call an official over. So would you prefer that the players sort it out by themselves, or is he doing that just to make sure that, he doesn't get pinged? Yeah, just your thoughts on that. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, great question, Ian. And I'll just jump straight into this. I'll answer the second question first. I would prefer that the players all knew the rules, that they were all able to proceed under the rules, and if they need some help, they asked another player, and that other player knew the rule. That's obviously, the rules are a little bit complicated, and so it's obviously not going to be always the perfect option for them. However, for such an easy rule as a sprinkler head beside a green, which Bryson's probably had 10 times this year, he should know, and he does know the rule. Is he calling over a referee for insurance? Yes, he is. He's calling over for insurance, that if the referee provides him information that's wrong, Bryson won't get penalised. But you don't need that insurance when the rule is so easy. You know, there shouldn't be any reason to get it wrong. He did make a comment, and you pointed this out, Roscoe. He said, oh, you know, there should be a referee with the last group. It's the US Open. Yeah, that's probably true, but in the times of COVID, obviously that was minimised. So that was just the way it was. But it was such an easy rule, didn't really need to call someone in. He knew that rule. He could have just done it himself. He knew that he could drop from the rough to the fairway. I mean, that's why he wanted the drop in the first place. Now, I'll answer your first question. This is a tough one for me because I really want to be a referee on a tour. So if I tell all the players that they need to know the rules and they don't need referees, then I'm just basically reducing the chance of me getting a job on the tour. So, you know, players don't learn the rules. You know, we need 20 officials out there, paid officials. So don't learn the rules, and I'll get a job on the tour, and I'll help you out. But that's, to be honest, the players should know the rules and should be able to do such an easy one by themselves. What do you reckon, Roscoe?
Yeah, I agree. You know, we all get charged with that responsibility when we, you know, first step on a golf course and, you know, play with a handicap with other people. So, you know, that's part of the tenet of the game, is to learn those rules. And I don't think, you know, just because you start playing for money that you bequeath your responsibility to know them and be able to apply them as everyone's expected to apply them. But I sort of get it. You know, if you can, you can. So, you know, I think, Blakey, there's always going to be room on tours for good quality, good-looking, fine young referees like yourself that do a great job and have one of the GolfRules biggest podcasts in the world. So there's always going to be room for you on a tour doing that. That's what I think.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
Now, we're nearly at the end. The segment that is a segment now, and it's official because we are starting to get some feedback. So we do appreciate you. Now, for those of you that are listening only to the podcast, you do need to watch the YouTube clip of this podcast to see and participate. And we encourage you once again to go over to Blakey's growing YouTube site. But it's Background Bingo. It's becoming popular. I think it's going to go viral personally.
It's huge.
But and you can see we've got some new backgrounds, which we'll give a couple of hints. I think pretty easy one from me this week. Not so even sure. Can't even see a golf course in yours there, Blakey, but I'm sure there's a golf course there. Now, a couple of special mentions for people who have played in relation to the last background. Andrew Miller, Hayden McInnes from New Zealand, and Charlotte Patton, all were very close to the mark, but no one really got it. No one really got 100% scoreage right. Andrew Miller was probably the closest. He guessed the new course at St Andrews and Cape Kidnappers. Well, the Cape Kidnappers part was right, but the new course at St Andrews was unfortunately incorrect. It was the old course at St Andrews, and it was the green of the 9th hole, which is, you know, if you look at looking at the picture of the old course sitting to my right here, it's the one that's in the part of the loop down, heading towards back to the town before you loop back up and back and around. So it's the par 4, the short par 4, drivable. Yes, that was my ball on the green sitting there for one. Yes, that was mine. So one of my original pictures. But yeah, it was the 9th hole at St Andrews on the old course. There you go.
Did you make the eagle putt there, Oscar?
Definitely not. 100% no, but it was a great day. Played that day with a young fellow from Mornington who was over there caddying, and a young lady from Texas A&M College, a college golfer over there. She took 10 pounds off us that day. She was a great young golfer. Sarah was her name. And one of the great days on the golf links was that day at St Andrews, where that photo came from, 2009. There you go. Now,
so what have you got a clue for your one, or you don't even need a clue? Is that what you're saying?
No, I think some people might appreciate a clue. The clue's not going to give it away, but what I will say is that everything that we stand for, and everything that the intro music for, not the music, but the intro tune, the intro words from Mr. Rattray's long-lost cousin from Leith Links, talking about the rules of golf derived in 1874 in Edinburgh, Scotland. Well, the original scribblings of those, forget exactly how many, 15 or so rules, are sitting in this clubhouse, just in that window there, just there. They're actually sitting in a case just there alongside the first ever trophy known for golf. So there you go.
Nice.
Pretty easy one.
Well, this one down here, this golf course, and this hole here is actually number 11, has a out of bounds with a creek on that side, which is actually when you're teeing off, it's down the left-hand side, and then lots of gorse and trees up the right-hand side when you're teeing off, and you see I can't remember what that mountain is, but it's in the background. It's a fantastic view. You can't see any other part of the course. This is they call it the Edinburgh of the South. It was one of my home clubs growing up. So hopefully, if you know me, you'll get that one. Fantastic golf course, very hilly. Has one of those rope toes at the end of this green. Actually, at the end of the hole, there's a rope toe getting up to the next hole. The green itself is 120 foot long, I think. It's fairly sizable. So you could be hitting anything from a pitching wedge to a 7-iron to from the same spot, depending on the flag position of the day. Yeah, fantastic course. I really want to get back there and play it again soon.
I think you've given many hints there that will probably direct people very clearly to where that is. Edinburgh of the South. There you go. There's a connection there with both these pictures. Edinburgh. Yeah,
that's right.
Blakey, if that's everything, I think we've gone over time, but we've covered a lot and had a bit of fun. You've called another IVOR for you. I'm going to actually start having a score sheet of IVORs for all of us. We issued a few for the European Tour and one for yourself this week. So let's look forward to getting a few more of those. Background bingo, it's a thing. And once again, many more rules situations to discuss. Always going to happen. Always going to be something to talk about and learn from me, from you, for you. There you go.
Awesome, Roscoe. Yeah, no, it's been really good this week. Thank you to the players on the European Tour for creating some rule situations for us.
Good luck at Renaissance Club. What a course. Okay, we'll look forward to seeing you next time on the Golf Rules Questions podcast. Thanks for joining once again. Jump over to YouTube, leave us a review, send us a message. We'd love to hear from you.
See you guys.